Welcome to Burnout-Free Me, your success and well-being podcast. I'm Dr. Amy Grimm, and I am so glad you're here. Let's go from burnout to breakthrough together. Hey friends, welcome to episode number 64 of the Daring DVM podcast. This week we are doing a continuation of our listening skills. So, if you remember from last week, we covered the 5 main reasons that you may not be hearing or listening as well as you think you are. We also talked about why being a good listener is such an important skill, whether that be at work with your colleagues or your clients or your supervisors, or whether it be in your personal lives, in your own relationships. Healthy open communication is the key to any relationship, and actively listening is a foundational part to communication. So just to recap, the 5 reasons why we don't always do such a great job at listening are: number 1, we have an agenda. That's when we are already thinking about our reply or trying to think about what the other person is going to say, and we're not fully attentive and engaged and listening to what the other person is actually telling us. The second is when there's just an informational overload. Maybe it's the words coming at you, or the environment is wrong, it's just too loud or distracting. Or it could be something as simple as the temperature, and you just cannot concentrate on the person in front of you. Number 3 is when we have our own judgments and we're thinking about the appearance of the other person, or we're judging them based on what they are saying instead of trying to figure out the meaning behind their words. Number 4 is when we have a lot of emotions of our own and we have a lot going on inside us, our bodies, our emotions, as well as a lot going on inside our minds, our racing thoughts, our potential triggers or things that activate us and prevent us from giving our full attention. And number 5 was just other distractions. Perhaps you are sick, or maybe you are feeling in pain, or maybe you're just so absorbed in yourself that you're not really paying attention to anybody else. We also talked about the difference between passive listening and active listening, and how there's 3 types of passive listening in which you're either not paying attention at all, or only kind of paying attention, or only hearing what you want to hear. And then there's true active listening, which is you making a conscious effort to try to understand the message that is being sent to you. This type of listening is also known as attentive listening or empathic listening. And if you're just jumping in today, welcome, and also maybe check out episode 63 before you continue listening to this one. Okay, friends, so here we go, diving into the second part of listening. The first step when it comes to being a good listener and an active listener is that you always want to evaluate yourself and the situation first. Ask yourself, are you able to listen right now? Do you have capacity in this moment? Do you feel safe? Are you empirically safe? Is the environment you're in conducive to the type of conversation that you're about to have? Are there any distractions, and is it possible to eliminate them? Do you need to change locations? And then let the other person know whether or not you're actually able to listen in the moment. Make it clear if this is a good time and a good environment. To be a good listener, you do have to advocate for yourself. If for whatever reason you're unable to listen at that time, you also always have the option to present them with options as to when and where would be a good time. And the really important part about this is that you do it kindly and compassionately. You don't just brush them off and give them the impression that you're not interested. If you're really unable to stop what you're doing in the moment, then kindly communicate that, yes, I would love to give you my full attention, and in order for me to do that, I need to complete what I'm doing, and then can we talk in 20 minutes, or whatever time frame works for you. If needed and appropriate, it's okay to schedule it for the next day or later in the week. But what I would really encourage you to do is actually set a time and date. You don't just want to say later and then it ekes on forever and ever until things become really awkward. And please, please, please remember, there is a huge difference between kindly telling them that you're unable to provide your full attention in the moment instead of saying something like, "Oh my God, can't you see that I'm in the middle of something right now? Can't we just talk about this later?" So think about examples where this could apply to you. Maybe it is at work, and you have a client who came in for a wellness appointment and has 5 million questions about everything else. It is perfectly okay to tell them that you don't have the time or capacity for this right now, and I will get back to you with an email. Leave a list of questions with reception, or we'll discuss this at our follow-up appointment. Or maybe one of your technicians or the hospital manager needs to ask you something while you are in the middle of doing a surgery. It's also okay to say, "Hey, I need to focus on this right now." And even think about examples in your home life where you're just trying to have a few minutes of peace to yourself, or you're trying to complete that one thing that you've been meaning to do all week. It is perfectly okay to say to your partner, to your child, to your mother, to your friend, "Hey, I need to get back to you when I can give you my attention and listen." Now, if you do find yourself in a scenario where the conversation cannot really wait and you also cannot really stop what you're doing, for example, maybe you're in the middle of an abdominal surgery, or maybe you are in the middle of cooking dinner on the stove, you can give the option of saying that, "Yes, I am going to listen as best as I can, but please know that I'm also dividing my attention over here." One, this lets the other person know that you cannot give them your undivided attention in that moment, and it does so in a way without dismissing them. And two, it opens the discussion to whether they truly want to talk right now, or if it is something that can maybe wait until you're able to be fully present. Okay, so the next step is that once you have made it clear that you're available to listen, or you have now reconvened at your set time and different place, you need to stop whatever else it is that you are doing and pay full attention to the other person. There's nothing worse than when you're trying to have a heartfelt conversation with someone and they are checking their email or scrolling for something on their phone. Don't be that person. Position yourself toward the speaker. Quiet your mind. Step away from your own internal dialogue and distracting thoughts. If needed, take a few deep breaths and allow yourself the space to get grounded and regulated. Am I safe? Yes. Do I feel safe? Yes. Remind yourself that it is okay. The conversation is not a threat. Give the speaker your undivided attention. Face them. Look at them. Even if they're not looking at you, focus your attention on them. Make eye contact. And I'm not talking about glaring at them or trying to stare them down. Just be cool. Make eye contact. You don't have to be weird about it. The thing is, if your eyes are wandering, then your attention is going to start wandering as well. And you really need to be fully focused if you want to pay attention to them and their body language and what they're saying and all of their nonverbal and verbal cues. A pro tip is that if this is a very difficult conversation, then sometimes it can be best not to face the person head on, as it can sometimes come across as confrontational or threatening. So if you find yourself in this type of conversation, what you want to try to do is stand side by side. You can still angle towards them a little bit, but don't stare directly at them. However, if they look over to you, they will still see that you are completely focused on them and you're not just looking around the room or zoning out. Sometimes it can also help to add a little movement. So, for example, going on a walk together, or sitting side by side in a car and going for a drive. Okay, so now we're in the right time, the right place, we're in our bodies, we're present, and now we're going to listen. Remember, hearing is physiological, listening is a choice. Pay attention to their words and try to imagine what it is they're saying. Try to pick up on their ideas and the essence behind their thinking. Seek an overall understanding of what it is they're trying to communicate. And don't fall into the trap of trying to focus on the exact words that they're using, because sometimes we choose the wrong words and we make mistakes. Think about what it feels like when you are trying to explain something important to somebody else and they're correcting your grammar or your choice of words or nitpicking you about the semantics about what you're saying. It's not a nice experience. Remember, the person in front of you is just trying to express themselves, and you are just trying to listen without judgment. You don't have to agree with what the person is saying, but don't minimize or dismiss them. Don't make assumptions about what they're saying, and don't focus on what you're going to say next or how you want to respond. Don't interrupt. Let them make their point. If there are natural pauses within the conversation, which there often are, you can ask clarifying questions, but it's also a great time to just give them space to think. The thing that you don't want to try is to give them advice or propose a solution or use this moment to give a rebuttal. Another aspect of active listening that is super important is you want to pay attention to the emotions behind their words and their body language. Do they seem angry or frustrated or resentful? Do they seem worried or nervous or afraid? While you're listening, you want to show them that you're listening through your own body language and gestures and facial expressions in a way that convey you paying attention and in a way that is showing safety and openness and a willingness to be there. Try to make eye contact, occasionally smile or nod. Notice your posture. Is it open and inviting, or are you tense and closed off? Are you curiously leaning in, or are you being threatening or imposing? And yes, you can use verbal cues too, like, of course, yes, I understand, but only use these occasionally to show that you're listening, not to interrupt them. Something that I find helpful is to imagine how our nervous systems are communicating with each other. Remember, your nervous system is taking in all of the external cues, all of your internal cues, and all of the cues between you and the other person. So, likewise, their nervous system is looking to yours to see what your response is. And if you have this completely blank face, or you're not showing any signs of listening or being interested, it can be off-putting, and the other person may interpret it as you being rude, or it may even send danger signals to their own autonomic nervous system. And then that person may become even more activated simply because they're not even sure if you're really listening, even if you are. And the final step is you want to show them that you have heard them. You want to give the person the time and the space to speak. So sometimes you may just need to sit in silence for a few minutes. You don't have to reply immediately. And to be honest, sometimes it's useful to allow some quiet time so that the other person has time to consider their own conclusions or solutions. And you can show them that you are listening by asking any clarifying questions if needed, and then reflect back what you have heard. A little caveat to be aware of here is that our own personal assumptions and judgments and beliefs can filter and distort what we hear. This is why we talked about in the last episode that it is important to know of your own biases or privilege. And this is also why it's really important to be able to reflect back what you think you have heard and to ask questions so that the other person has an opportunity to explain if there is something that you have misunderstood. You can use phrases like, "What I am hearing is this," It sounds like you're saying this. Is that correct? What do you mean when you said this? Is this what you mean when you said this? Notice you're trying to restate their key points to affirm your understanding and to build further dialogue by asking clarifying questions to get more detail in a non-threatening way and to confirm that you've actually understood the meaning behind what they're trying to say. Another tip is that depending on the length of the conversation, you may need to use some of those natural pauses to stop and summarize what the person is saying as you go along, or ask questions. And if for some reason you find yourself stuck in one of those awkward situations where both of you are quiet and nobody's saying anything, then remember, questions are a great way to keep the conversation moving. Also, I don't do this often, but if you really, really feel like you're missing something or you just cannot follow what the speaker is saying, it is okay to politely interrupt them. But remember, you're not using this time to come up with a counter-argument or to give your thoughts about something. It's purely for your own understanding. Likewise, if the person is speaking really quickly or too softly or they're mumbling and you're unable to understand what they're saying, it's okay to politely interrupt. And once the two of you are on the same page about what they have been saying and what you understand, then you finally have your opportunity to provide any feedback or response. Remember to express your appreciation to them for sharing. Acknowledge and validate their feelings. Use phrases like, "From what I understand, it sounds like you might be feeling this way. I imagine you may feel this way because." If it helps you, you can even try to imagine how they're feeling in the moment because you really want to show up from a place of empathy. And as always, you want to be regulated in your zone of resilience. Try to remain calm and centered within yourself. You're not trying to create more problems or take on any of their emotional drama for yourself, but you can allow yourself to reflect on how you think they're feeling, and you can express empathy for that. If appropriate, you can also share your own experience to demonstrate your understanding, but don't spend too much time here talking all about you. Bring it right back to the person's issues and relate it back to them. Another pro tip is that if the other person is saying things about you, or if this is a highly charged emotional conversation, then make sure you're focusing on I statements in a way that focuses on the problem and not the other person. This can sound like, "I feel as though," and then address the problem, versus, "You make me feel like," and then address the person. So, "I feel as though I have let you down through my actions," not, "You make me feel like I've disappointed you." You always have the option to express your thoughts and opinions respectfully, and you can be candid and open and honest without being curt or rude or blunt. Treat the other person in a way that you think they want to be treated. And before you respond, always ask yourself, is what I am about to say kind? Is what I am about to say true? And is what I am about to say necessary? Because if it's not kind, and it's not true, and it's not necessary, then why are you even saying it in the first place? It's probably because you only have your own personal agenda for bringing it up. Okay, friends, so that is active, attentive, empathic listening. Such an important skill for us to develop because we spend a lot of our lives listening. Listening is really the foundation to healthy communication, and healthy communication is the foundation to healthy relationships. And relationships, whether that be in our personal lives or our professional lives, make up every single aspect. So the question I'll leave you with this week and what I really encourage you to think about is, how do your listening skills contribute to the quality of the relationships that you have in your life? I love who you are, and even more than that, I love who you're becoming. Dare to dream.